The Icons of Real Estate podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
I'm your host, Karen Roberts, and today we're excited to introduce Michelle Pauley, MBA, founder of Success Commercial Real Estate. Her passion for the non-profit sector with her husband has fueled her unique love for fundraising and making an impact. She's been in real estate since the early 2000s. Michelle transitioned to full-time commercial real estate in 2019, drawn to its logic, data and strategy. So get ready for an insightful conversation with Michelle as we dive into commercial real estate, non-profits, and carving your own path in the industry. So let's jump in. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So you transitioned from residential to commercial fairly quickly. So what was the realization that made you decide commercial was your niche?
Well, I knew I was getting into something that would have a lot of opportunity, a lot more opportunity than the residential market. So I looked around, I heard a radio story about the residential market as I'm, driving in between property showings, right? And I heard the story and it was like, hey, record set for the residential market in Arizona. This record was a $40 million purchase of a residence, right? And I thought to myself, like, I'm never going to be that agent that sells that one top item in residential. And I'm sitting at a cross streets and I see $40 million worth of commercial real estate sitting on one corner, kitty corner from that. $40 million of commercial real estate sitting on the other. Oh, wait, there's two more corners here. So just the law of probabilities, right? Like there is a lot more opportunity for me to be able to make a bigger impact in terms of my commission in commercial. Secondarily, I tend to be, I'm a Cancer, so I'm supposed to be warm and nurturing and all of these wonderful things, right? And in fact, like I'm warm and nurturing, but I would love to also be financially successful in this. And I just realized that, hey, when I'm out with a client on a tour and we're talking about carpet color and they're going to lose their apartment in 28 days. So we've got 24 to find them a condo to buy. And they're concerned about the carpet color. That's not where I live and work and have, full manifestation of who I should be, really. So that really drove that home to me. This is something where, hey, if people are purchasing a commercial real estate asset, there's not emotion typically involved in that. It is, hey, do the numbers work for me? Yes or no? And it is cut and dry, move on to the next piece of property. If it does not work, no harm, no foul. So that was the thing that really enticed me over to the commercial side is just the quick decisiveness. I know how to make money for people. I spend other people's money really, really well, but my goal is to make money for them, right? So making sure it's that right asset for them to acquire. So made that jump back a few years ago and have never ever once looked back. Really, it's been amazing.
Wow, brilliant. And you're with your experience with non-profits as well and fundraising, how's that influenced your approach to building relationships and closing deals in the commercial side of real estate?
Yeah, that's actually a really wonderful question. No one's asked me that ever before. So great job. Yeah, so I have a passion for fundraising. It is one of the things that I've always found really actually pretty simple to do. If it's a good cause and I've got something that I believe in, I can sell that to anybody. So that experience and fundraising has definitely helped me become more confident in my sales ability. I'm making my client money. me by being able to produce at this level in commercial real estate. So it's really kind of driven my sales experience, because I'm not going to sell something to them that's not of good value, that just goes against who I am as a person, and I'm not going to sell something that's not beneficial to them. So that's really helped guide my sales practice in commercial real estate. And the other aspect of it is that I ran and at the time I was running a small parent teacher organization for my kids' school. And I say small, but we were full-time employing 4 teachers aides. We ran about 30 events per year, and I was working for about 70 hours per week unpaid. So it was all voluntary and, in philanthropic kind of point of view. And I learned that people love events, first of all. And then secondarily, that I was establishing a really good network of entrepreneurs. So when I launched into commercial real estate, I realized that if I looked in my database on my own telephone, just from looking and connecting with people in our parent teacher organization, I had probably 45 restaurateurs in my database already. So for me, it was, hey, where do I find a client base to begin launching into commercial real estate? And instead, it ended up being, hey, I've got a client base. Instead, it lives in my phone already. So I just leveraged that and some of the initiatives that were coming out from the Small Business Administration at the time surrounding lending for small businesses. And I just started reaching out and saying, hey, would this be something that you'd be interested in? Are you interested in owning your own space? So leveraging that network has really definitely at least pushed me into commercial real estate initially. Hasn't been super successful in terms of, hey, I've got every one of those restaurateurs a new place. But the fun part is that I learned that I'm one of those strange extrovert introvert people. I can turn it on if I need to, but I'd just as soon be sitting in the middle row of a classroom, not raising my hands, asking questions, right? So if I have to run an event, I have to force myself out of my shell a little bit. And if I'm the one in charge of things, then that leadership ability kind of kicks in. And I say, okay, like, get off the wall, stop being a wallflower, stop being in the middle of the room, not talking to anybody, dive in and begin chatting with people. And so that has been probably the most tremendous thing I learned out of running events is I can talk to anyone now, anyone
Right.
at all. So it's a very tremendous learning curve. All education comes at a price. Mine was, 70 hours of work for free for many, many years.
There you go. That's something different. But there you go. You don't know where you're going to get these skills from. So
Yeah.
commercial real estate, obviously, it requires a strong analytical mindset. So can you share a time where leveraging data and logic helped you solve a specifically challenging deal?
Wow. Yes. We use logic and data analysis in every single transaction we do. But the one that comes top to mind is really taking a deep dive into an industrial asset that's really popular right now. So it's called industrial outdoor storage. And it's kind of like the sleeper investment in the room kind of situation. It's the secret agent. There's actually a lot of activity, but it's not really well talked about. So I actually own a piece of industrial outdoor storage in the Phoenix market here, and got a call from one of my friends, and he said, hey, you got to call the next door neighbor to, this property that you own. I think he wants to sell. So we did, the full analysis on what his property could be valued at. And he's making a good bundle on this. And then just did a full lease analysis as well as a full sales analysis. So itemizing what he could get per acre for industrial outdoor storage versus the, small coverage of a lot of a building for a contractor yard, for example. And so we took that analysis and actually came up with a price point for a sales that was a little bit higher than what he had anticipated. But having the market knowledge and diving really deep into that asset was the thing that solidified us as the choice for brokers for him for that transaction. So, it didn't hurt that I, was part owner of the property next door for sure.
Yeah.
But just saying, hey, like this is what the going lease rate is for commercial transactions for industrial outdoor storage right now. The lease rate is approximately $7,500 per month per acre. And you've got 5 acres here. So that's the low end. Top end is, 10,500 per acre. So pricing his lease agreement aggressively to advertise properly, as well as at the same time, hey, we could also sell this asset instead. So we could make him a future landlord on this formerly owner occupied property, or we could sell the asset for top dollar at this point. So we ended up selling that transaction. We had 5, this never happens, by the way. We had 5 full price letters of intent on the property within 1 week of advertising it. He had asked us to advertise it publicly immediately, which is not the way commercial typically works. We typically find our buyers off market, get to have limited representation, but he asked us to publicly market it. So within 1 week, we had those 5, competing transactions. And it, guiding our seller on, hey, this letter of intent is from an active investor in the market. This one's from an active investor in the market as well. They own this amount of portfolio of industrial outdoor storage. They would probably be a good choice to sell this property to, because they're going to get it leased up really quickly after that. Ultimately, we ended up guiding him to, through discussion, he wanted to sell to an owner occupant. So since we had 5 full priced offers on the table here, we went back to that one that he kind of selected and say, hey, like he's wanting to select yours, but here's the deal. We've got 5 full price offers on the table. We could command, a full a competitive bid portion right now. But we're going to ask that you pay, just $100,000 more than the ask price, and he would be willing to accept that. So by doing so, we actually covered our fee in the increase that we were able to get for our client, right? So we made $99,000 in commission on that transaction, and we had increased his purchase price by $100,000. It was an easy transition, successfully closed that sale, and it's all about knowing your numbers and being your market industry leader in that particular asset.
Wow, a win-win, that sounds like.
It was great. It was wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We loved it.
So
yeah.
You also have a passion for globe trotting, I see, and big dreams of owning a winery. So how do you balance pursuing your personal passions whilst running a successful commercial real estate business?
Oh, you're hilarious, Karen. That's a great question. I was like, you don't. That's the answer. I was on an AI training podcast yesterday, and actually training webinar, and the host of it said, hey, like, just so you know that like there's not really balance for any of us right now. She's like, I'm running a successful business in this, but I'm not balanced. And really that's kind of it's true. Our lives are a little chaotic, but that's kind of just the recipe for my life, my husband's life, our family life for sure. Our kids know there's always an element of chaos, and we will show up to choir rehearsal with no white elephant gift yesterday. So it's running off to the drugstore because we didn't get that email opened in time. But it's having the right partnership for sure, having the right people in your corner on there, because I've got 10 more years before I actually want to retire, which is not a long time, being in commercial so short of a time, but I've got 10 more years that I want to retire. So we know it's all it's all focused right now, and really working to, maximum profitability right now. So our goal is to actually retire in St. Bart's, which is in the French West Indies in the Caribbean. And that is not an inexpensive place to live. for sure. And in the meantime, we want to get our kids, on more international, into more international countries, get that exposure to, life outside the US and just getting, different perspectives. So we work really hard to be able to take that time off each year to go and experience some of the things with our kids. So that's
Wonderful.
really important. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, do the
But you
things that
wouldn't
keep
have
you
it any other
sane.
way. You wouldn't have it any
No,
other way.
no, absolutely not. Yeah, it's funny because, I've got my hobbies that I do. For sure,
Hmm.
there's not many. I sing in my church choir, and it's a really, really it's tough to learn, probably 15 new pieces of music every week during certain weeks. And it is not easy stuff. We're talking about, really advanced, compositions by all the greats. And I get to disengage my mind a little bit going into rehearsal each week and not have to think about the numbers on a page. I have to think about a melody or a harmony, and it's a wonderful break for me. But yeah, there's not much else I do. I read a little
There's the
bit.
there's the balance. There's the balance. The analytical mind with the creativity of music.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. That's
So
true.
most people we've had on here are in residential, so not
Mhm.
commercial. So to give an idea to the listeners, could you sort of compare what were you doing in residential, how many transactions you were doing a year versus obviously commercial is going to be a lot less transactions, well, I would presume, but what has been the difference for you in a typical year?
Okay, yeah, that's another great question for sure. So, I'm the weirdo amongst commercial brokers. I got in and I actually started a team almost like pretty darn quickly here. So I started a team in commercial real estate about a year and a half ago. So my transaction count prior to that, like the years before, like you'd work on probably 2 to 3 very large sales transactions per year. And then, typically doing several lease agreements. But when I was on the residential side, I was more primarily a buyer's agent, doing, I think we did probably 36 transactions a year. I was on a team with my sister at the time, and, great GCI coming in off of those transactions. It was really just the two of us that were, in the business working. But I think that the biggest difference is the timeline in commercial real estate versus residential, because a lot of people are like, oh, she just mentioned a $40 million property on each corner. I'm going to jump in and do commercial myself, right? And the
Mhm.
reality of it is that I was a buyer's agent mostly for new home buyers, but in commercial, the timeline is a lot longer. So residential stuff is, 30, 45, 60 days kind of turnover. You can usually convert a lead into a closed transaction in that timeline if they're a qualified lead. And in commercial, you can convert a lead for a lease transaction in sometimes 6 months. It takes a lot longer. A land acquisition could take 2 to 5 years.
Mm,
So this is a long game kind of industry for sure. And it
mm.
is incredibly, you think residential is competitive. Commercial is incredibly competitive because of how long we have to work in transactions for. And, residential is kind of, I call it the tyranny of the urgent. And commercial is like, how long can you stick it out? Because that's what the difference is, right? And so it is really interesting to me because a lot of folks also, hey, let's get into commercial real estate. I think I can handle that. I signed a lease once for a space. Okay, you might be able to, obviously, like talk to your broker about it, see, what you're fully capable and qualified to do, first of all. And then secondarily, there are people that are so specialized in commercial real estate that it takes such a long time to build that career, but that specialization is so fine tuned that that's not competitive to someone just walking in off of, oh, I've done a few residential transactions. I'm going to hop over to the commercial space and magically be able to do this, right? It takes a long time, a long education piece. I was talking to one of the top producing brokers for EXP Commercial at our conference just a couple of months ago. And he was second in the company for earnings. And he is a large bay industrial, so large bay being 100,000 square feet plus, industrial warehouse tenant rep in the Dallas Fort Worth area. That's how specialized he is in what he does. He doesn't represent landlords, he doesn't represent buyers, he doesn't represent sellers, he doesn't represent office, hospitality, multifamily, retail, any of those. He does large bay industrial tenant representation in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and is the second highest earner in EXP Commercial this last year. So
Wow.
it's very, very nuanced, but you can dive in. And if you've got experience from other things in your life, right? So maybe you were a retail store manager in a life past, or maybe you managed a cold storage warehouse for a company. Having those types of experiences that you can draw on as a commercial broker is also incredibly helpful for sure. So
Mm.
yeah, there's a little
Mm.
smidgen of the difference.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
worlds apart. I'm like, yeah.
worlds apart. Yeah. Very, very
Yeah.
different. So, well, what's next for Michelle? What are your goals for this coming year?
Oh, that's a good one. We're working on business analysis right now and refining our goals for it. So I currently have 10 team members on my team, and we can do every type of representation in the US, and we have some specialists in certain areas, but then some of us are generalists. I'm one of the weirdo generalists, but our goal really as a team is to increase the number of transactions we do. We've done 29 this year for our team, which is a
Oh,
tremendous like number of
wow.
transactions. And we've just gotten up to those 10 team members as well. So it's definitely converting and starting the track a little bit more, moving the wheels down the track a little faster for us. So GCI, I mean, my goal for my personal GCI is to double it from this year. So we're looking probably 1.2 million for GCI on
Wow.
there. And then my goal is also to get my team to that same level, right? I'd like to sell $1 billion worth of real estate within the next 3 years. So that's, I mean, it's a
Brilliant.
goal. It's not going to be done without a plan and without analysis on how to get there. So we're kind of finalizing what plan of action it is that's going to take to get us there. But really, I want to get my team members, who most of them are very new to commercial real estate as well. I want to get them up and thriving in commercial real estate, not just, hey, I'm going to hold on and buckle up for the next 2 years for this land acquisition. Now, hey, what's a
Mm.
way that we can get you paid in the meantime as well? Because that's super important to longevity in this business. And that's kind of my goal with this. I'd like to expand multi-state and to have an agent in every single state in the US to be part of our team. That'd be lovely and wonderful. And in the meantime, we can transact in a lot of states across, state lines through our brokerage, which is really cool. Obviously, we have to, go through legalities on all of that and make sure that we're working correctly and legally. But having an agent in every single state that can be able to take over any transaction would be an ideal goal for
Brilliant.
me. And yeah, retirement in 10 years. So there's not a long ramp up. It's kind of straight uphill.
Whee! There you go. Busy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Busy.
yeah. For sure. For
Fantastic.
sure.
Well, look, last fun question, really, because here at Icons, we are the number one real estate podcast network globally, and we are passionate about making podcasting accessible to everybody involved in real estate. So if you had your own podcast, Michelle, what would you call it?
Oh gosh, it's such a difficult question. I mean, I kind of alluded to this a little bit more earlier. My life is chaos, right? So it'd probably be chaotic analytics with Michelle. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I love that. I love that. Straight off the top of your head. And well, from what you've shared today, sounds about right.
It
Fantastic.
does. Yeah,
So,
awesome.
if is anybody out there that would love to join your team. You've just mentioned there
Yeah,
you're looking to recruit agents in every state. Well,
absolutely.
how do they get in touch with you? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so anyone can go into my website. It's successcre.com. So that's SUCCESSCRE as in commercial real estate.com. And my phone number's on there. They can text me, they can call me, they can fill out the web form on there and reach out that way. I'm available on LinkedIn as well, Michelle Pauley CRE, almost every social media platform, and they can certainly reach out that way. And I'd be happy to communicate with them and see if they're a good fit.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle, for your time today. Yeah, it's been interesting speaking to you. Commercial real estate is very different to residential. So
It
thank you
is.
for your time. And to the listeners, I'll be back next time with the Icons of Real Estate. Bye for now.